Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we will talk about the symptoms of a self-realized soul. So in the Bhagavad Gita, if we look at the second chapter, and in the second chapter, in shloka 54, in the second chapter, shloka 54, Krishna is confronted by a question by Arjuna. And Arjuna asks this beautiful question. He says, Arjuna vacha, Sita prajnasya ka bhasha, samadhistasya keshava, Sitadi kim prabhasheta, kim masita brajeta kim. Arjuna said, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak and what is his language? How does he sweat? How does he sit and how does he walk? So, Sita prajnasya ka bhasha, samadhistasya keshava, stitadi kim prabhasheta, kimasita prajeta kim. So, here Arjuna is asking Krishna, what are the symptoms of a person whose consciousness is elevated? How does he speak? How does he walk? How does he talk? How does he think? All these different things. So he is talking about how can you differentiate a person who is self-realized from an ordinary person. What are the symptoms of a self-realized person? So it's a very, very important question. Does he speak Chinese? Does he speak Hindi? What does a self-realized person speak? How does he think? What does he do? What is actual self-realization? And how does one behave when he is actually self-realized? So therefore, what we should do is we should realize the self, and these qualities will come automatically. So what are the qualities? What are these symptoms of a self-realized person? You will be able to understand those symptoms, and with those symptoms you will be able to differentiate. You'll be able to differentiate what is really the spiritual life. So let's say I'll give you a example here about how this question is so important. We all ask about different questions. We all ask different questions. What is the symptom of a soul? What is the symptom of this and that? But the real question here is a very serious question asked by Arjuna. Why is he asking this, first of all? Because Krishna is glorifying self-realization. Krishna is glorifying, and Arjuna wants to know what is actually a self-realized person. How does he behave? Because is a sadhu recognized just by the dress? Is a sadhu just recognized by the place where he lives? Is a sadhu recognized, or a spiritualist recognized by what he knows? What is the real thing by which you can distinguish a sadhu? For example, let's take a practical need example of today. Why is it needed? So if I give you a practical example, say let's start with a bad example and then let's go to a good example. So the bad example would be, for example, somebody like Asharam Bapu. Now he's in jail. So many people's faith is disturbed because so we see that that actually, and that is one negative example, and there are so many like that who have been caught, who have been dragged into court. There are so many against whom there are police cases going on, this and that. So people lose their faith in a sadhu. So that is a negative example. Now if you talk about a positive example of a good sadhu, then we can take nice example of Srila Prabhupada, about how people glorify Srila Prabhupada. Oh, he controlled his senses. He came to America at the age of 70. He came with just $8. He practically did not have any money. He practically did not have anything with him. So if we see actually that the qualities of a person like Srila Prabhupada, for example, one devotee by name Chota Haridas, he saw Srila Prabhupada photo in 1970s, and he saw Srila Prabhupada was wearing a very nice watch, and he thought, oh, this sadhu looks to be very rich. Got some kind of an idea in his mind, and he thought, let me go to this sadhu, let me get something from him. So he met Srila Prabhupada, and everyone was taking darshan of Srila Prabhupada one by one. So this man decided to take darshan of Srila Prabhupada. And when he was in front of Srila Prabhupada, he was only looking at Srila Prabhupada's watch. He was only looking at Srila Prabhupada's watch, and Srila Prabhupada just opened the watch and gave it to him. And when Srila Prabhupada gave that watch to Srila with this Haridas Thakur, he was completely flabbergasted. What? Such an expensive watch he just gave to me? He just gave it to me? So that is he was completely bowled out by Srila Prabhupada's gesture. How can a sadhu just give his watch so quickly? How can he just quickly, somebody asks for it and you give your watch, expensive watch. So he was impressed, and what did he become? He surrendered himself to Srila Prabhupada. He thought, oh, this man is very special. If he can give his watch on a platter, that means he's not attached to material things. And he became a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. So by one's symptoms, one attracts the others. By your symptoms, you attract the other person. So this is the situation. So here Krishna is asking the question, Sita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhis tasya keshava sitadi kim prabhasheta kim asita vrajeta kim. So, and then Krishna begins to answer here. What are the symptoms? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partham Manogatan Atmanyevatmana Tushtaha Sita Prajnastadochyate. So the blessed Lord said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of sense desire which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So what does he say? When a man gives up all varieties of sense desire, which arise from our mental concoction, and when his mind finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So, this material world, there is a lot of illusion that there is some kind of happiness, and everybody which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind finds satisfaction in the self alone. So his satisfaction is in the matters regarding the spirit soul. It is in the matters regarding the spirit soul. So he is not interested in other varieties of sense gratification. For example, if you see people in general, you want to watch movies, or you want to watch games, basketball, football, all these things. Now, somebody won, somebody lost, but you are rejoicing or you are getting depressed. Now here you identify that this is the you. You are not playing the game, but you think, oh, this is my team, or you bet money on them, or you identify this as my people. And then what happens? If they win, you rejoice. If they lose, you got depressed. This is the situation. So therefore, we should understand very clearly that this mind is the cause of suffering or happiness. Mind attached to sense gratification. Moment he sees, for example, one who is addicted to alcohol, when he sees the same bottle, he wants to drink that alcohol. But somebody who is not addicted, he sees that alcohol, he is not disturbed. So that is the situation of a self-realized person. Here we are talking about a gross thing called alcohol or meat or something like that. But a spiritualist is not attracted to any material enjoyment, any kind of other kind of material enjoyment. He is not attached to that sense gratification. I will tell you a beautiful story here about how a person can behave this way. So there is the PowerPoint slide and the link, and I will try to broadcast it via this screen share. And yes, so if you see this, so somebody who gives up all varieties of sense gratification. So the example given here is that of Madhavendra Puri. So Madhavendra Puri is a devotee of the Lord. This Madhavendra Puri is completely satisfied in the service of the Lord. And this Madhavendra Puri is not disturbed by anything external. All he wants to do is chant the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the first symptom is that he is not attracted to sense gratification. But what is he attracted to? He is not attracted to sense gratification, but there should be some attraction. So that attraction it is towards spiritual. This spiritual attraction should be made natural. This spiritual attraction should be made natural. When somebody is naturally attached to Krishna, to spirituality, then one becomes completely happy. Because one cannot remain for a long time without any kind of attachment. Either it has to be material or spiritual. So this Madhavendra Puri is sitting there and he is simply chanting the name of the Lord. He is meditating on the Lord. He is not disturbed by anything. He sits there without even food, without even asking for food. One day, one cowherd boy comes there and he gives him milk. So Madhavendra Puri, as you can see in this picture, he is chanting the names of the Lord and he is thinking, who is this? He thinks this boy looks very divine, very nice, and he is giving me milk, and he is drinking, and he drinks that milk, and he is asking, why are you giving this milk to me? I am just a poor man, I am just chanting the holy name. He says, no, you should take it. I have just come to give this to you with great love and affection. So this he takes it. He knows there is something special in that milk, and this goes on every day. Until a day he realizes that it is actually Krishna who is coming and giving him that milk. So Madhavendra Puri did not ask for anything. He was completely detached. But look, his purity and his peace of mind, his attraction for Krishna attracted Krishna. And this loving exchange, can you imagine that you are coming in face to face with Krishna, with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, means how much attraction he had internally for Krishna. And because he had that internal attraction, he could shut down all his senses. He could shut down his mind. He could forget about everything in this world and he could just sit down to chant Hare Krishna. He could just sit down to chant Hare Krishna. So Madhavendra Puri was such a pure devotee of the Lord. So similarly, were the Pandavas. So if I go to the next slide in this, and here, let's go to the next sloka. Krishna is talking about Dukkheshu anudvigna manaha, Sukheshu vigata spraha, Vitaraga bhayak krodha, Sitadir muni ruchyate. So, Krishna is explaining here that very beautifully, one who is not disturbed in spite of threefold miseries, who is not elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, he is called as a sage of steady mind. Now let's look at this question. Now the Pandavas are a very, very beautiful example of this. Why? Because they went through all suffering. They went through all different suffering. The Pandavas went through all different suffering. And the Pandavas were in Vanavas for 13 years, for 12 years. 1 year they were in Ajnatavas. They had their wife being molested in front of them. They had so many calamities. The house of wax in which they were living, it was set on fire. Their whole kingdom was taken away from them within a moment, within a day, in a whole game of dice. So the Pandavas went through untold suffering, but yet they are wonderful. Why? Because the Pandavas never gave up bhakti. The five Pandavas never gave up worshipping Krishna. That is called as a sage of steady mind. Sometimes we go through a lot of misery. Some relative dies, some friend dies, your party loses the election, you lose some money, you go into some kind of suffering or something like that. But despite all these things, different things, they managed to keep their focus on Krishna because they were pure devotees. Draupadi was completely almost stripped. She was trying to hold the sari. First she looked at Bhishma when she was being molested by Dushasana. She looked at Bhishma. Bhishma put his head down. Then she looked at all the other seniors. They all put their heads down. She looked at her husbands that they would save him. They would save her. They put their heads down. And Draupadi, finally, she even lifted one hand towards Krishna. So, Krishna did not come immediately. Draupadi still did not lose hope. Now, Krishna, you want me to surrender fully? So she left two hands. And then Krishna came. Therefore, we should understand that this Krishna consciousness, that this Krishna bhakti is transcendental, and Draupadi, despite facing reverses, she just surrendered with both hands to Krishna. She completely surrendered. So, when one faces more difficulties, one's surrender should increase. Usually what happens when we are doing good in our life, we think, oh, now we should do bhakti. But the Pandavas show by example, despite going through difficulties and more difficulties, their surrender just increases. I'll tell you one more interesting story about Draupadi. Krishna had given them a special pot called Akshaya Patra. So this Akshaya Patra is so special that anybody can eat as much as they want and whatever they want from that pot. But once Draupadi eats for the day, the pot stops giving food. So Duryodhana knew this and he wanted to trap the Pandavas. So what does Duryodhana do to trap the Pandavas? You know the Rishi Durvasa, he gets angry and he curses very easily. So this Durvasa goes and stays with his 10,000 disciples in the house of Duryodhana. Duryodhana feeds and takes care of them nicely. Durvasa is very pleased. So Durvasa asks Duryodhana, what can I do for you? Duryodhana says, the best thing that you can do for me is show the same favor to the Pandavas. You should go to them after lunch, because he knows that after lunch, after Draupadi eats, they cannot feed 10,000 people in the forest. She cannot cook so many in that pot, because that pot stops giving prasada. So Durvasa happily obliges. So this Durvasa Muni, he goes and he meets this Rishi. He meets the Pandavas, and Yudhishthira is outside there, and he sees Durvasa Muni and he welcomes him. Oh, Rishi Durvasa, you are here. So nice to see you. He welcomes him. And then he says, oh, Rishi, you and your 10,000 disciples, you must be very tired. Why don't you go to the river and you can take bath? Why don't you go to the river and why don't you take bath? So, why don't you take bath? So, he goes and sends them to take bath. And Yudhishthira comes home and he tells Draupadi, hey Draupadi, we are lucky. We have 10,000 guests along with Durvasa Muni. So prepare a nice meal. And then he looks at Draupadi, and Draupadi is just about to cry. Just about to cry. And then he says, Draupadi, you are crying? You are about to cry? So Draupadi cries and she tells Yudhishthira, so she tries and tells Yudhishthira, Swami, I already had my lunch. This pot will not cook anymore. I have nothing left. Now all we will get is 10,000 curses from Durvasa Muni. So Yudhishthira is completely taken aback. What do we do now? We could not feed. We will not be able to feed the 10,000 disciples of Duryodhana, Durvasa. We will not be able to feed them. So when Draupadi begins to cry, she holds that pot, that Akshay Patra, and she begins to cry for Krishna. Hey Krishna! Hey Krishna! Now this pot is useless. We will be cursed now. Krishna, help us. And Krishna comes running. In the movies, this is a job for Superman, like that. So this is only Krishna can help them. So frankly, only Krishna can help them. So Krishna comes there, and Krishna tells Draupadi, Draupadi, forget about feeding these people. Why don't you feed me first? I am hungry. I am really hungry. So then Draupadi says, Krishna, even you are playing with me now. What can I feed you, Krishna? Look at this pot. There is nothing. There is nothing in here. What can I feed you, Krishna? So then, as she says that I have nothing to feed you, then Krishna says, there is something in that pot. Look, there is something in that pot. Look at that. Look at that. There is one grain of rice. So Krishna, with his nail, he scrapes that one grain of rice and he eats it. As soon as he eats that, all the 10,000 disciples of Durvasa, everybody's belly becomes full. Durvasa's belly becomes full. All his disciples' belly becomes full. Everybody is full. And they cannot even walk in that water. So then Yudhishthira understands that Krishna has made this miracle. And as far as his duty, he goes to Durvasa in the river and he goes and says, Durvasa Muni, please now come, now come. And as Durvasa Muni wants to come out, he cannot. All his disciples are saying, Muni, we cannot walk. Our bellies are full. We cannot walk. So everybody's belly is full. So they start running in the opposite direction. They have cooked a big feast. How can we eat it? We cannot. So let's go. Let's run. So they run in the opposite direction. So this is the situation. So the point is that even in the greatest fear, in the greatest difficulty, it is not that one is not completely out of disturbance or fear, but one begins to completely depend upon Krishna. That is the spiritual reality. No, there is virtual reality. No, there is spiritual reality. So spiritual reality means how much you are able to depend upon Krishna. Krishna, I have this problem. We develop a communication with Krishna. So that is a devotee. In his problem, he does not ditch Krishna. He puts a serious question to Krishna. Krishna, you answer me, you help me, you guide me. He takes Krishna as his best friend. He takes Krishna as his most important person in his life, more and more and more and more. He begins to take Krishna even more seriously. He begins to understand Krishna, that he is the most important person in life. So this is the symptom of a spiritualist. This is the symptom of a devotee. So a devotee, a spiritualist, he is undisturbed, in the sense he knows that Krishna is doing something for him, and despite the problems, Krishna will take care of him. So that is the situation of a devotee. So despite the problems, Krishna will definitely take care of him. Another very important sloka here. Now before we go to the sloka, I would like to tell something about the devotees of Vrindavan, Brajvasis. So the Brajvasis are so wonderful. The Brajvasis are so wonderful that the Brajvasis are always thinking about how to serve Krishna. And when any difficulty befalls in Vrindavan, and when any difficulty befalls on Vrindavan, any big difficulty crashes on Vrindavan, the devotees of Vrindavan, they are just crying for Krishna. They are not thinking, oh, let's leave Vrindavan and run away. No. When there is some problem, the Brijvasis just think, where is Krishna? Krishna, he will solve our problem. Krishna, where is he? And that is the symptom of a devotee. That is the symptom of a devotee. He is thinking, where is Krishna? How is he? Just thinking about Krishna. So, the reality is, a devotee is simply thinking about Krishna. A devotee is simply focused on Krishna. And he is completely surrendered unto and depending upon Sri Krishna. So, the more we learn to develop our relationship with Krishna, the more we learn how to depend upon Krishna, your spiritual qualities increases. So the more you learn to depend upon Krishna, the more your spiritual qualities increases. So this is the situation. So therefore, we should understand that the another symptom of a nice devotee, yats yat sarvatra navisnehas tattat prapya shubhashubham navinandati nadveshti tasyat prajna pratishtita. One who is without attachment, one who does not rejoice when he obtains good, nor laments when he obtains evil, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. So, he who is without material attachment means we have so many attachment needs and wants. One who does not rejoice when he obtains good, nor laments when he obtains evil, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. So, a devotee does not rejoice when he obtains something good, nor does he lament when he obtains evil. Such a devotee is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. So, the example I can give is that of Sanatana Goswami. He went through so many incidents in his life. Once a man came and he wanted to get his daughter married. And Sanatana Goswami was sitting in his ashram. Somebody directed him to Sanatana Goswami. And he told him, somebody told him, why don't you ask this sadhu? So this sadhu was asked, the Sanatana Goswami was asked by this sadhu, I have to get my daughter married, can you help me? So Sanatana Goswami says, go look in my trash can. Go look into my trash can, you might find something. So this man goes and he actually begins to look in his trash can. And what does he find? He finds a chintamani. He finds a chintamani. Now this chintamani means he can touch that stone to anything, any metal, and it will become gold. And Sanatana Goswami has thrown it into a trash can. This man asks Sanatana Goswami, don't you want this? It's in your trash can. Don't you want this? No, says, I don't need it. I don't need it. No. This man was completely bewildered. What do you mean he doesn't need it? Every man needs it. Sanatana Goswami said, just take it. So he is completely without attachment. And he was not disturbed. Whereas everybody would put it in a locker. Day and night they would spoil their brain about how to protect it. But Sanatana Goswami, Krishna will give whenever he wants, he'll give. Even when Krishna asked, Sanatana Goswami used to feed Krishna chapatis without even putting salt. And then Krishna would ask Sanatana Goswami, what is this? You are giving me chapatis without salt? And he says, Sanatana Goswami tells Krishna, what are you talking? Today you are asking salt, tomorrow you'll ask something, and day after tomorrow you'll ask something. What is this? Your demands never seem to end. Go arrange for yourself. Such was his communication with Krishna. Such was his love for Krishna. By his love, he had completely taken over Krishna. By his love, he had completely taken over Krishna. So this is the situation. So Sanatana Goswami, at one point in his life, there were several incidents. One incident was When he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he had a nice blanket. He had given up. He was a royal person. He had a palace. He had gold coins. He had treasure. He had wealth. He had relatives. He gave up everything for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And all he had was a nice blanket. So he would wear this blanket, and he went actually to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu looked at his nice blanket. He was looking at that blanket. Mahaprabhu thought, oh, for a sadhu, this blanket looks very opulent. And he went to the riverside and he looked at a beggar who had a torn quilt. Sanatana Goswami said, okay, Mahaprabhu thinks I look very like a professional with a nice blanket. So he took that blanket and he gave it to this beggar and instead took that quilt. And the beggar was very happy to give him. And then Sanatana Goswami went in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Mahaprabhu was very appreciative. Wow, very nice, such a torn quilt. Very nice. So this is the symptom of a devotee, that he does not get disturbed. He is ready for any surrender to Krishna, any surrender, any kind of surrender, any kind of suffering. So he is ready to do that for Krishna. He is not disturbed. So that is the situation of a devotee. So ultimately, Krishna is stating in the Bhagavad Gita that a devotee, the symptoms of a devotee is that he controls his senses, he controls his mind, he isn't disturbed with material ongoing. So if you look at the example of all these devotees, Krishna, he is explaining that by bhakti, it's not that he has to not undergo suffering. Although he undergoes suffering, his mind is still fixed on Krishna. So that is the symptom of a sadhu. That is the symptom of a transcendentalist. He knows that Krishna has something special in his mind for him. So that is the thing. So he has everything for Krishna. It is special for him. So therefore, for a devotee of Krishna, everything is Krishna's blessing. Every situation is Krishna's blessing. And he does not think otherwise. He really does not think otherwise. So this is the symptom of a devotee of Krishna. So therefore, what we should do is that we should train ourselves in such a way that we do not get affected. But how do you train yourself? Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. If we practice dharma, if we practice spiritual life sincerely, seriously, automatically everything else will go away. So in the text 58, he says, Yada samharate chayam kurmongani va sarvashah indriyanendriyartebhyas tasya prajna pratishtita. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects as the tortoise withdraws its limbs within the shell is said to be understood as truly situated in knowledge. So, when there is an object of sense gratification coming in front of you, a devotee is able to withdraw his senses. So, if you look at the last slide, the example is given that of a tortoise. So, a tortoise actually is able to withdraw itself. So, a tortoise has a hard outer shell but soft inside. So the hard outer shell means how tough he is, and inside, but he is a very soft person, and whenever needed, whenever there is a danger, the tortoise is able to go inside. The example we can give is that of Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur was a great devotee of Krishna who was chanting always. And one person from the neighboring village, he got very envious. He sent a prostitute to attack Haridas Thakur. And this prostitute, Maya Devi, she was trying to attract Haridas Thakur with trying to dance and entice him in his ashram. So Haridas Thakur said, I will chant the holy name. And when I am done with my daily rounds, I will definitely enjoy with you. So this lady waited with that hope. And Haridas Thakur just kept chanting. And ultimately, he slept. She slept. That lady slept. Haridas Thakur kept chanting. The lady went back the next morning and Haridas Thakur said, I'm sorry, I could not finish my rounds. You come later today. She comes like that and same thing happens. He keeps chanting. So this continues for 3 nights. And the 4th night, this lady cries and surrenders unto Haridas Thakur. And then she tells Haridas Thakur, I am sorry, I was actually sent by the Ramachandra Khan to actually destroy you, pollute you. But I could not pollute you. So this is the situation. So therefore, finally, Haridas Thakur tells her, I actually wanted to also go away, but I stayed back for you to purify you. So now that you know, this is spiritually, it's very enlivening because that lady realized her mistake and she surrendered unto Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur said, I stayed back just to make you a devotee. And now my job is accomplished. Now this ashram is yours. Give all your wealth away to Brahmanas and shave your head and chant the holy name. So this lady surrenders, stays in that ashram and plants a tulsi plant and chants the holy name. So Haridas Thakur is able to control his senses. So similarly, there are many devotees who are attacked by wine, wealth and women. But they are able to hold their mind and hold their senses. And they are able to live and practice their spiritual life properly. So therefore, the symptom of an enlightened person is that his mind is totally focused on Krishna. He is a great devotee of Krishna. When there are great difficulties, he always remembers Krishna. When a difficulty increases, like what is happening to our Vaishnava devotees in Ukraine and Russia, and many places the devotees are facing difficulties, but they are not giving up hope. They are trying to surrender unto Krishna. And as they are doing that, Krishna is arranging something for them. The devotees in Ukraine, they are getting a shelter built in Kiev and so many other places and things like that. And Krishna is arranging for every devotee. So Krishna will take care of every devotee very nicely. Hare Krishna. So I will stop here. And if there are any questions or comments, please ask. So those who are on the web watching live, you can chat and ask questions. And I would like to answer this question from Tina Mataji from last time. The thing is that we are too much into material world. When I pray, there are so many things going on in my mind. How can I concentrate? So when we try to chant the holy name of Krishna, we should give up all other tension. Just forget about it. Just forget about it. They are not at all important. Just forget about everything else. Just chant the holy name and everything else will come. Because if you keep thinking about it, these problems will never seem to go away. You have to just surrender. I have nothing to do with this world. I have to Krishna. It's as though you are about to come to the point of death. So what is left? I have nothing to gain here. I'm about to die. So what is left with me is Krishna consciousness. So I just chant the name of Krishna. Everything else is attained. Everything else is taken care. So that is the mood we should be when we actually chant. So I would like to say that what we should do is actually give up all other material symptoms, all other material disturbances, and we should simply chant the holy name of Krishna. So I will stop here. So if there are any questions or comments, please ask. Please let me know. Is anybody on the phone having any questions?
Yes, Hare Krishna, this is Chirag.
Yes, Prabhu.
I had a quick question. Before we eat our meal, what is the exact prayer we should offer to Krishna? Like, if you see Muslims, they like they before they do anything. What's our best fallback, or do we have a special prayer in our Vedic scriptures before we eat a meal to offer to Krishna?
Okay, very nice question. Chirag Prabhu is asking if there is any special prayer we offer to Krishna. So first of all, the food that we eat, that should be cooked without onion, garlic, and that food should be offered to Krishna. So when offering, we can chant the mantras if Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Name Gauratishe Namaha Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Jagaditaya Krishna Govindaya Namo Namo. If you Google Prasadam prayers, you will get it. Prayers Prasadam to prayers to offer prasad to Krishna, prayers to offer bhoga to Krishna. In Google, you will get it. Then there is a special song that we sing, special prayer that we chant when we eat prasad. We chant Mahaprasade Govinde Namo Brahmane Vaishnave Swalpapunya Vatam Rajan. If you type in Google Mahaprasade Govinde Namo Brahmane Vaishnave prayers, Mahaprasade Govinde prayers, you will get the entire prayer. So this prasad is chanted explaining that this body is a lump of ignorance and this prasadam is transcendental. So we are trying to gain transcendental benefit by chanting the holy names of Krishna. By eating this transcendental prasadam, our body and mind becomes purified. So I will try to send the link, Chirag Prabhu, for you. I'll put it on Facebook and you should be able to get it. And both the prayers and the to offer and both the prayers to chant. Right?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So,
Yes, sir.
Hare Krishna. So, any other questions or comments at this point? All right. So, I will stop here. So, thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Krishna Karnataka.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.